Have you ever wondered if something as simple as a nutrient deficiency today could quietly determine whether your brain stays sharp 20 or 30 years from now? Most people think dementia is purely genetic, that once the process starts, there's very little you can do about it, but that's no longer what the science suggests. In fact, one nutrient has been attracting enormous attention because people with the highest levels in their bloodstream appear to have dramatically lower rates of dementia. Some recent research has even reported around a 40% lower risk of early onset dementia among individuals with the highest blood levels compared with those who had the lowest. That's a remarkable finding. But here's what's really going on inside your body. The important word isn't supplement, it's status. Because swallowing a capsule doesn't automatically mean your brain receives enough of the nutrient that actually protects nerve cells. Your body has to absorb it, transport it, incorporate it into brain cell membranes, and maintain healthy levels over many years. Today we're talking about omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA, the primary structural fat found inside your brain. Your brain is nearly 60% fat by dry weight. Every memory you create, every conversation you have, every decision you make depends on billions of nerve cells communicating efficiently. Those cells are surrounded by delicate membranes, and DHA is one of the key building blocks that keeps those membranes flexible, functional, and capable of transmitting signals. Think of it like this. Imagine every brain cell is a smartphone. DHA isn't the battery, it's the quality of the wiring inside the phone. If the wiring becomes damaged, stiff, or inflamed, messages slow down, connections weaken, and eventually the system begins to fail. And that's why this conversation matters so much. We're not just talking about preventing dementia decades from now. We're talking about preserving memory, focus, learning ability, mood, and overall brain performance starting today. In this video, I'll explain what the latest research actually shows, why omega-3 status matters far more than most people realize, the biggest mistakes people make when choosing supplements, and the simple daily habits that help your brain build resilience as you age. If you're interested in evidence-based strategies to optimize your metabolism, protect your brain, and extend your healthy years naturally, consider subscribing. I post new science-backed videos every day designed to help you understand what your body is really asking for. Your brain may only make up about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes roughly 20% of the energy you produce every single day. That tells us something important. The brain is one of the most metabolically active organs in the human body, and keeping it healthy requires far more than simply solving crossword puzzles or taking a supplement once in a while. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every thought, memory, and decision depends on billions of neurons sending electrical and chemical signals to one another. These signals travel across tiny gaps called synapses. For this communication to happen efficiently, each neuron needs a healthy, flexible outer membrane. Now let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your brain is a city with billions of houses connected by an enormous network of roads. The neurons are the houses and the roads are the communication pathways. If the roads are smooth and well-maintained, traffic flows effortlessly, information moves quickly, memories are formed efficiently, and your thinking stays sharp. But if those roads become cracked, inflamed, and full of potholes, traffic slows down. Messages get delayed, and eventually some connections are lost altogether. That's where DHA comes in. DHA is the most abundant omega-3 fatty acid in the brain and is a major structural component of the membranes surrounding your neurons. It helps those membranes remain fluid and flexible, allowing receptors, ion channels, and signaling proteins to function the way they're designed to. As we age, oxidative stress, chronic inflammation, poor diet, and metabolic dysfunction can gradually damage these membranes, making communication between brain cells less efficient. What the research shows is that people with higher blood levels of omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA, tend to have healthier brain structure, slower brain aging, and a lower risk of cognitive decline over time. It's important to understand that this doesn't prove omega-3 supplements alone prevent dementia. Instead, it tells us that maintaining healthy omega-3 status over many years appears to be one important piece of the brain health puzzle. So how do you improve your omega-3 status? Start with food whenever possible. Fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel, trout, and herring are among the richest natural sources of DHA. Aim for 2 to 3 servings each week. If you rarely eat seafood, a high-quality fish oil or algae-based DHA supplement can help fill the gap, especially when taken consistently with a meal that contains healthy fats to improve absorption. But remember, brain health is never about one nutrient in isolation. Omega-3s work best in an environment where blood sugar is stable, inflammation is low, sleep is restorative, and the body has the nutrients it needs to repair itself every day. If this is helping you see brain health from a completely different perspective, consider subscribing. Every day we break down complex medical research into practical strategies you can actually use to protect your metabolism, your memory, and your long-term health. One of the biggest reasons headlines about dementia prevention can be confusing is that they often blur the line between taking a supplement and having healthy nutrient levels. Those are not always the same thing. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Imagine you're trying to fill a reservoir that supplies water to an entire city. Pouring water into the reservoir is important, but what really matters is how much water stays there. If there are leaks, poor inflow, or excessive demand, the reservoir never reaches the level the city needs. Your omega-3 status works much the same way. Simply taking a fish oil capsule doesn't guarantee your brain is receiving enough DHA. Absorption, the quality of the supplement, your overall diet, genetics, smoking, chronic inflammation, and metabolic health all influence how much DHA actually reaches your brain cells. What the research shows is particularly interesting. A large prospective study published in 2024 found that individuals with the highest circulating omega-3 levels had approximately a 40% lower risk of developing early-onset dementia compared with those who had the lowest levels. Notice what the researchers measured. They measured blood omega-3 status, not simply whether someone reported taking a supplement. Other large observational studies have also found that regular fish consumption and long-term omega-3 intake are associated with better cognitive aging. However, randomized clinical trials using supplements have produced more mixed results. Some show modest benefits, particularly in people with low baseline omega-3 levels or very early cognitive decline, while others show little effect in people whose brains have already developed significant neurodegenerative changes. That tells us something extremely important. Brain protection is probably not something that begins after symptoms appear. It begins decades earlier. Think about heart disease. We don't wait until someone has severe artery blockage before recommending healthy nutrition and exercise. We encourage those habits long before damage becomes irreversible. Brain health follows the same principle. This is why consistency matters so much more than quick fixes. A practical protocol looks like this: eat fatty fish 2 or 3 times each week whenever possible. If you don't eat fish regularly, consider a high-quality omega-3 supplement that provides both DHA and EPA, ideally taken with your largest meal for better absorption. Pair omega-3 intake with antioxidant-rich foods such as berries, leafy greens, walnuts, extra virgin olive oil, and colorful vegetables. These foods help reduce oxidative stress, which can otherwise damage the very fats you're trying to incorporate into your brain cell membranes. Finally, ask your healthcare provider whether measuring your omega-3 status is appropriate for you, especially if you have a family history of dementia, cardiovascular disease, or very low seafood intake. Measuring can provide a much clearer picture than guessing. The takeaway is simple: don't focus only on what you swallow. Focus on what your body actually absorbs, utilizes, and maintains over time. That's the difference between chasing headlines and applying science in a way that can genuinely support healthy aging. One of the most overlooked drivers of dementia isn't something you can feel. It doesn't cause pain, it doesn't make headlines. Yet it quietly accelerates brain aging year after year. It's chronic inflammation. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Inflammation is not the enemy. In fact, it's one of your body's most important defense mechanisms. If you cut your finger, inflammation helps stop bleeding, fight infection, and begin the healing process. The problem begins when that inflammatory response never completely turns off. Think of inflammation like a smoke alarm in your home. When there's a real fire, you want the alarm to sound immediately. But imagine if that alarm kept blaring day and night, even after the fire was gone. Eventually, the constant noise becomes destructive. It drains energy, creates stress, and prevents the house from functioning normally. Your immune system works in a very similar way. When you're constantly consuming ultra-processed foods, experiencing blood sugar spikes, sleeping poorly, living with chronic stress, or carrying excess visceral fat around your abdomen, your immune system receives repeated signals that something is wrong. Over time, this creates a state of low-grade chronic inflammation that slowly affects tissues throughout the body, including the brain. Inside the brain are specialized immune cells called microglia. Their job is to protect neurons by clearing away damaged cells, infections, and waste products. But when they're activated for months or years instead of days, they can begin releasing inflammatory chemicals that damage healthy neurons and interfere with normal communication between brain cells. What the research shows is that chronic neuroinflammation is now considered one of the central mechanisms involved in Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. Scientists believe it contributes to synaptic dysfunction, accelerates the buildup of harmful proteins, and makes brain cells more vulnerable to oxidative stress. This is where omega-3 fatty acids become especially valuable. DHA and EPA don't simply reduce inflammation. They serve as building blocks for specialized compounds called resolvins and protectins, which help the body actively resolve inflammation after it's done its job. Instead of suppressing the immune system, they help restore balance, a much healthier approach. But remember, no supplement can overcome a lifestyle that constantly fuels inflammation. Here's a practical anti-inflammatory protocol you can start today. Fill at least half your plate with colorful vegetables at lunch and dinner. Replace refined seed oils used in processed foods with extra virgin olive oil where possible. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night because deep sleep is when the brain clears metabolic waste through its glymphatic system. Include regular physical activity. Even a brisk 30-minute walk can significantly reduce inflammatory markers over time. And keep blood sugar steady by building meals around protein, healthy fats, and high-fiber carbohydrates instead of sugary snacks. If this is helping you connect the dots between inflammation, metabolism, and brain health, consider subscribing. Every day, we explore the science behind healthy aging and turn it into simple, practical habits you can start using immediately. The goal isn't to eliminate inflammation, it's to teach your body when to switch it off. And that simple shift could be one of the most powerful investments you ever make in protecting your brain for decades to come. If I asked you to name the biggest risk factor for dementia besides age, many people would guess genetics. Others might say a lack of mental exercise. But one of the strongest and most overlooked contributors is something that affects hundreds of millions of people worldwide: poor metabolic health. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your brain may represent only a small fraction of your body weight, but it's an energy-hungry organ. Under normal conditions, its preferred fuel is glucose. However, glucose can't simply drift into brain cells on its own. It relies on insulin signaling and a healthy metabolic environment to be used efficiently. Now, let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your brain is a bustling city and glucose is the fuel delivery truck supplying every neighborhood. Insulin acts like the traffic controller, making sure those trucks reach the right destinations on time. But when insulin resistance develops, traffic becomes congested, deliveries are delayed, some neighborhoods receive too little fuel, and the entire city becomes less efficient. This is one reason some researchers have described Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes. It's not an official medical diagnosis, but it reflects the growing evidence that impaired insulin signaling in the brain may contribute to cognitive decline. In people with insulin resistance, neurons may struggle to use glucose effectively, leaving them with less energy to repair themselves, communicate efficiently, and maintain healthy function over time. What the research shows is that conditions like obesity, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease are all associated with an increased risk of dementia. These conditions share common root causes: chronically elevated insulin, persistent inflammation, oxidative stress, and damage to blood vessels, including the tiny vessels that nourish the brain. Here's the encouraging news. Many of these risk factors are modifiable. Start by building meals that stabilize blood sugar instead of causing sharp spikes. A simple formula is to include a high-quality source of protein, healthy fats, fiber-rich vegetables, and minimally processed carbohydrates. This combination slows digestion, reduces insulin surges, and provides your brain with a steadier supply of energy. Time-restricted eating may also help some individuals improve insulin sensitivity. For many healthy adults, finishing dinner 2 to 3 hours before bedtime and allowing a 12 to 14-hour overnight fasting window can support metabolic health without being extreme. Pair that with regular resistance training and brisk walking after meals, both of which improve the body's ability to handle glucose. And don't overlook sleep. Even one night of poor sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity, making it harder for your body to regulate blood sugar the next day. Protecting your sleep is one of the simplest ways to protect your metabolism and, by extension, your brain. The key message is this: omega-3s may support a healthier brain, but they work best in a body with healthy metabolism. If insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, and poor nutrition are left unaddressed, you're treating one branch while ignoring the roots of the tree. Healthy aging doesn't come from a single pill. It comes from creating an internal environment where your brain has the nutrients, energy, and metabolic stability it needs to thrive for decades. By now, you can probably see that protecting your brain isn't about finding a miracle supplement. It's about creating the right biological environment and then using high-quality nutrition to support it. That brings us to one of the most practical questions people ask. If I decide to take an omega-3 supplement, how do I choose the right one? Here's what's really going on inside your body. Not all omega-3 supplements are created equal. In fact, 2 bottles sitting side by side on a store shelf may look almost identical, yet provide very different amounts of the nutrients your brain actually needs. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine you're buying orange juice because you want vitamin C. One bottle contains 100% real juice. The other contains mostly flavored water with just a splash of juice. They both say orange on the label, but only one delivers a meaningful amount of the nutrient you're after. Fish oil supplements can be very similar. The 2 main omega-3 fatty acids you'll see are EPA and DHA. While both are important, DHA is the primary structural fat found in the brain, making it especially relevant for long-term cognitive health. EPA plays a larger role in regulating inflammation and supporting cardiovascular health. Ideally, you want a supplement that provides a meaningful amount of both, rather than focusing only on the total amount of fish oil. A practical target for many healthy adults is around 500 to 1,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA per day, although individual needs vary depending on diet, health conditions, and medical advice. If you already eat fatty fish several times a week, you may need less. If you rarely consume seafood, supplementation can help close that nutritional gap. Quality matters just as much as quantity. Choose products that are third-party tested for purity and contaminants, such as mercury, PCBs, and oxidation. Fish oil is a delicate fat. If it becomes oxidized, its quality declines significantly. Store it according to the manufacturer's recommendations, and if the capsules smell strongly rancid or leave a persistent fishy aftertaste, it's a sign the product may not be at its best. Timing also makes a difference. Take omega-3 supplements with a meal that contains healthy fats, such as eggs, avocado, olive oil, nuts, or full-fat yogurt. This improves absorption and helps your body incorporate these fats into cell membranes more efficiently. But here's the point I want you to remember more than anything else. A supplement should supplement a healthy lifestyle, not replace it. If you're sleeping 5 hours a night, living on ultra-processed foods, barely moving your body, and relying on fish oil to protect your brain, you're asking one small tool to solve a much larger problem. Instead, think of omega-3s as one piece of a complete brain health strategy. Combine them with resistance training to preserve muscle and improve insulin sensitivity. Eat colorful vegetables and berries to provide antioxidants. Prioritize deep sleep so your brain can clear waste products overnight. Challenge your mind by learning new skills, reading, or engaging in meaningful conversations. And nurture strong social connections, because isolation itself has been linked to a higher risk of cognitive decline. If you found value in today's discussion, consider subscribing. Every day, we explore the science of metabolism, nutrition, and healthy aging, turning complex research into simple strategies you can put into practice immediately. Because the goal isn't simply to live longer, it's to stay mentally sharp, physically capable, and full of energy for as many of those years as possible. As we wrap up, let's step back and look at the bigger picture. We began with a simple question. Could one supplement reduce your risk of dementia? The answer is more nuanced and far more empowering than most headlines suggest. Here's what we've learned. The research is genuinely exciting. People with higher omega-3 levels, particularly DHA, tend to have better brain health and, in some studies, a substantially lower risk of developing dementia. But the real lesson isn't that fish oil is a miracle cure. The lesson is that your brain responds to the environment you create for it every single day. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your brain is constantly rebuilding itself. Every meal you eat, every night of sleep you get, every walk you take, and every period of stable blood sugar sends signals that either support healthy neurons or slowly work against them. Think of your brain like a retirement account. You don't build financial security by making one large deposit the week before you retire. You build it through small, consistent investments made month after month, year after year. Brain health works exactly the same way. Every serving of fatty fish, every strength training session, every good night's sleep, every meal that keeps insulin under control, every decision to reduce inflammation instead of fueling it. These may seem like small actions on their own, but together they create a powerful foundation for healthy cognitive aging. The encouraging news is that many of the biggest risk factors for dementia are modifiable. You can't change your age, you can't rewrite your genes, but you can improve your metabolic health, you can reduce chronic inflammation, you can nourish your brain with the nutrients it needs, and you can build habits that increase the odds of staying mentally sharp for decades to come. So here's my challenge for you. Don't try to implement everything at once. Choose one change today. Maybe it's adding 2 servings of salmon this week. Maybe it's replacing a sugary breakfast with a high-protein meal. Maybe it's committing to a 30-minute walk after dinner each evening, or perhaps it's finally prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Pick one habit, practice it consistently for the next 30 days, and pay attention to how your body responds. Sustainable health is built through consistency, not perfection. And remember this, protecting your brain isn't just about preventing dementia years from now. It's about improving the quality of your life today. Better focus, more stable energy, sharper memory, clearer thinking, greater independence as you age. Those are benefits worth investing in. If this video helped you better understand the science behind brain health, I'd really appreciate your support. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who wants to stay mentally sharp as they grow older. Thank you for spending this time with me. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring practical, science-backed strategies to optimize your metabolism, protect your health, and help you live a longer, stronger, and healthier life.